I've had my music go viral. I've had it be ranked on the charts in terms of worldwide recognition. I've had some of my songs be some of the top songs to use for different trends on TikTok or Instagram or YouTube videos or whatever the case is. And the crazy thing is, I don't have like a manager or an agent. I don't have like a specialized marketing team, whatever. I do everything myself. And throughout my years of being a musician and also being a YouTuber, which I feel like does kind of help understand the audience psychology analytics side of having things kind of blow up, I've kind of developed my own, I'm going to call it 5-step process to making your music go viral. This is the exact 5 steps I've used to get that kind of recognition and get the attention on my songs. Like I said, without actually spending a dime, not spending anything. It's all theoretically happened organically. So that being said, here are the 5 steps I've used to make my music go viral. Number 1, Videoable. Now, I do suggest watching this entire video as each one of these steps kind of fold into each other. And in addition, this also depends upon the stage that you are in the music making process. If you've just released a song, it's going to be a little bit different than, like, say, if you're planning on making a new song, right? Like, so we'll talk about that. But the first thing I've realized after years of trying to get my music out there, like every other musician, can and will somebody use your song in a video, and will they want to use it in a video? Doesn't make logical sense. For example, you can see right now I'm on YouTube. I have a plugin called Keywords Everywhere. Surprisingly, I'm gonna get more technical than you think. This is a plugin that allows me to see analytics based off terms or words. So you can see right here, if I type in microphone, I have about 500,000 searches a month that people have when it comes to searching for microphone. However, will people, like say on TikTok, go out of their way to make a video and feature music about a microphone? Not really. Like, I feel like, and this is where kind of the, almost a lot of psychology kind of comes into play, is that when it comes to like a term like this, like microphone, I have to think like, okay, will someone actually use the term microphone or search the term microphone on TikTok to use for a song in their video? Most likely no, because for a microphone, you probably don't want to have a ton of audio in the background, right? You probably want to hear the microphone itself or the quality. Or is some, let's say, 13 or 14-year-old person on TikTok, for example, or some influencer going to be using a song called Microphone? That's where it gets a little dicey. So the first thing I like to do is, when I'm thinking about, let's say, making a song, what is a term or a topic that I can make a song about that people are already searching for and already planning on doing a video about, and they want and especially need to use background music or using music in that particular video. So is it videoable? Microphone to me is just, I don't know, too square of a term. In addition, just logically, I feel like if I was making a bunch of TikTok videos and let's say I was making one about a microphone, I'd be way less likely to use music or background music than, like, say, if I was making a video, let's say, about, if I type in Los Angeles, for example, you can see I have about 2.74 million views for the term Los Angeles. That makes a lot more sense. If, like, say, someone's going to LA and they're doing a highlight reel, or they're visiting and they want to showcase a bunch of different things, that's a lot more videoable, so to speak, than a term like microphone. So always think to yourself, and this is what I like to do when, like, say, I'm planning on releasing a song and I'm trying to figure out maybe a topic, or let's say if my Ableton's pulled up and I'm like, what do I even want to do a song about? This, thinking if it's videoable and if it's a type of thing that people on TikTok or Instagram or YouTube will use, is super important. Number 2, titling. Now, this, if anything, might be the most important thing on this video, even maybe more than it being videoable. And that is this. And this is something I've realized, again, after years of my music doing very, very well. It is this. A lot of times when people make a video on TikTok or Instagram or YouTube, and again, whether you like Instagram or TikTok or not, whether you're a fan of those platforms or not, it is a huge way to get your music out there and get it blown up. A lot of times when people make a video, they will literally go to Add a Music and just search something related to the video they just made about and use that song. And if you can be a very common search term that people use, that is going to be absolutely vital. That's why I said first, is it videoable? I don't see a lot of people going on TikTok and making a video and searching microphone when wanting to put in music in their video. It just doesn't really make a lot of sense. However, if I, like, say, go to my songs, you may notice, I'm going to go up here actually right now, all of my most recent releases have in some way what's called SEO, or search engine optimization. Basically, all this means is I've used terms after doing some analytic assessing, which I'll show you in a second how I do this, to say, okay, how can this song potentially get searched to use? For example, I made a song called Techno at the After Party. It was kind of like a minimal techno record I wanted to make. And I was like, okay, I could call it, Afters. Or I could call it another maybe catch your name or whatever. But then I was like, well, techno. People sometimes just search techno. After Party. Sometimes people just search After Party and then they put in that, and put in the video. Pallet Town, Pokemon, right? If I go down here, skydiving, right? Cobra Kai, Sam Sulik, Lorem Ipsum, hot sauce recipe. That's one I'll talk about actually in a little bit. Electric Forest, David Goggins, Brazil, Malort, South by Southwest, LAX to Boston, Magnus Carlsen. So these are all different phrases that I know people would search for. Now, granted, Catalina Island, I could have called it a Caribbean-style name. It was kind of like a blend of like electro house and Caribbean and tropical music. I could have called that anything else. But I was like, you know what? I don't know what to name my songs. I always have an issue naming my songs as well. Or I guess I used to, because I was like, I want to think of like a cool name or whatever. But I was like, wait, I'm just going to call it Catalina Island, because if someone goes to Catalina Island, which in my opinion, is one of my favorite places in the world, this song could pop up. This is super important. So technically right now, my most popular song is, where is it? Is St. Patrick's Day. It went viral. It was like the number one song, I think, to use in the world on TikTok. It got way bigger than I ever imagined, right? And the crazy thing about this song is if I named it Top of the Morning, and I've said this before in a few other videos, but let's say I named it like Top of the Morning, or some kind of cliche Irish American type slang or word, or like have a pint, or I don't know, right? Well, I don't think it would do as well. It would definitely not do as well. But what happened is, on St. Patrick's Day, people just went to make a video. There's a bunch of like makeup trends that happened with my song. There's a bunch of other trends where people will be partying on St. Patrick's Day. They'd make a video. Be like, oh, we need background music. And what would they do? They really go on TikTok and just search St. Patrick's Day. This is where titling gets so unbelievably important, because if I actually type in soccer, right, and I do this, you could see I have 1.8 million searches a month. Now, I made a song about the famous soccer or football player Messi. A lot of people tell me I look kind of similar to him. Like, I've actually gotten like people come up to me in person saying, dude, like, you look identical to Messi. There was even one time, this is true, a guy thought I was Messi, and I was like, no, man, I'm not Messi, I'm not Messi. And he goes, dude, you can tell me, like, it's okay, like, I won't. Like, he actually thought I was trying to, like, not bring attention, I don't know. But anyway, so I was like, okay, maybe I could make a song about Messi, and I was like, maybe I could call it soccer or something. But then I realized, okay, well, if I call it soccer, 1.8 million searches a month. However, if I call it Messi, or in this case, I called it Lionel Messi, there's 13.6 million. That song also has been doing unbelievably well on TikTok. I think it's actually my number one used song on TikTok in particular, because what do people do? They want to upload a highlight reel about Messi, or all these famous plays, or all this kind of stuff. They then literally go, when trying to find background music on TikTok, and just search Messi, or Lionel Messi, whatever, and my song pops up. So if you can make a song, like I said, one that's videoable, because like I said, Microphone has about 500,000 searches a month. But is that something that's a videoable topic? In my opinion, no, right? Something like Messi is. Then the second stage is, how can you title it in the correct way for searchability? That when people go to TikTok, and they make a video, what are they most likely to search for? And some of this is analytics based, like you're seeing here with the numbers. Some of it's just psychology. How can you think of a way to title your song that someone's most likely to search that thing? The first time I noticed this, which is really funny, is Taco Bell. I made a song called Taco Bell, just like a little fun, like, I don't say like a joke, but kind of, it's like a fun song just to make, where I use like the Taco Bell bell, which actually is from like, I think the Yamaha keyboard from years ago. And I was kind of like the song about it. And I noticed that song started to do pretty well on TikTok because people would go to Taco Bell, get a picture of their food, maybe a Crunchwrap Supreme, whatever the case is, and they would go to music and just search Taco Bell. And then my song would pop up. Searchability, I think maybe even more than Videoable, but searchability, I think, is a big thing. And the big thing about this is titling your songs correctly, that when people want to use it, or potentially they're looking for a song to use, they're going to search a very specific keyword or term, and your video, or excuse me, their song for their video, your song for their video will pop up. Number 3, time preview. This is another huge hack that not a lot of musicians take advantage of. Now I'm going to show you, before we get into DistroKid, which I'll show you in a second, here's going to be my song Messy, right? My song Lionel Messi. I'm going to play you option A and option B. And I want you to tell me, do you think option A is going to do better? Like say if someone previews a song, or option B. So here's option A. And now here's option B.
Messi leading the way.
Now, I bet almost 100% of people would choose option B. Why? Well, one, it's building up to something, and then there's a drop, right? Of course, so immediately there's some suspenseful element to it that keeps you listening. But the second thing is that phrase, Messi leading the way, right? This is the kind of thing that very quickly can make a song not go viral to going viral. And this actually happened with my Messi song. I used to have option A. I didn't really know about time previews on TikTok, nor did I care. And I had option A, and the song did okay, but nothing that crazy. Then I switched it to option B, and boom. That song then took off like crazy because it's kind of a catchy line, right? This is what happened with my St. Patrick's Day song, where there's a line that I used that it's St. Patrick's Day, everyone's Irish tonight, and that just hooked, and then a bunch of people used it. So picking the right time preview of your song is important because when people like say, go to do a video, they then go to search, and hopefully your song pops up when they're searching for it, and they go to preview it, that's another big element. Because if they preview it and some catchy line, there's something that grabs them, they're more likely to use it, right? So I'm in DistroKid right now, and let's say I go to, actually I'll go back to Messi, just show you. I'll go to the VIP because I did like a VIP version of it. If I go to edit release on DistroKid, I don't know how to do this on TuneCore and other platforms, but I'm just showing this as like a really important example. If I go down here, I have this preview clip start time. So you can see, I don't let the streaming services decide. That's the default. I go to here and say, let me specify when the good part starts. So 1 minute and 2 seconds, I found was the sweet spot, right, for this particular record. And what this allows me to do is it quickly and very easily allows me to say, okay, you know what? I want to make sure that when someone goes to preview the song to potentially use it, I know that they're looking at the exact best part that allows me, or and my music and my song to have a higher likelihood of being used. Number 4, phrasing. So going off what I just said, if let's say you've already released a song, which I'll talk about a bit later, because some of this you may be thinking, well, Mark, I already released a song. Like, I'm not going to change the title, whatever. We'll talk about that. So I will say that. When it comes to phrasing, what I'm talking about is this. If let's say you're working on a song and it's about a topic, like I said, that's searchable, it fits all these things that I'm talking about. A lot of times I try to think to myself, like, okay, is there any phrase, is there any sentence, or is there any thing or line or whatever that I can use right before the drop, so to speak, which I feel like is the most common time for that preview start, like I just showed you, where I can use a phrase that's kind of interesting or captivating or grabs your attention or has the potential to go viral, right? And there's been some times I've kind of worked on, excuse me, a couple different phrases that I'm like, okay, this actually could be catchy. And this is a big thing on TikTok, right? That when it comes to trends, usually, not always, but most of the time, there is usually some phrasing aspect. Now, yes, there are songs that go viral. You've probably all heard them that are just a song. It's not like there's any trend behind it in terms of the words that they say. Sometimes it's luck, which of course, that's a huge element. I think sometimes it's going viral. Sometimes the artist might hire a marketing team or pay off influencers or whatever to use a song, and it snowballs from there. But a lot of times, there's usually a word. I notice, and this is like a very interesting thing I've noticed throughout the years, which is kind of cool. I feel like I remember back in the day, which seems kind of random, but very relevant, memes, right? Which still exist, but memes have changed. From my perspective, back in the day, memes were just visual things. I remember like the LOL guy or like these old school ones on this like app I used to use called iFunny, which I don't even know if it's still like around anymore. But this is way back when. I first remember seeing memes in like 2000, I think 10 or 11 when I was in college. And it was only visual. And the idea was the meme was a certain thing, like the old school dinosaur one, I think was one of the first memes I ever saw. And the dinosaur going like this. And that picture had like a certain theme to it. And you put text on it or whatever. We all know what memes are, right? And there was a visual thing. I've noticed over the years that kind of meme format of it being a picture of something and you put text on it and the picture is supposed to represent a certain idea or theme and then the text adds that theme or kind of piggybacks off of it isn't as popular anymore the way it used to be. I notice now, which is kind of interesting how things come or things move and things come in ebb and flow in different ways, that it seems like almost it's more of a musical thing now when it comes to memes than a visual thing. That someone, like, say, will use a song, and there'll be words in it, and this happens all the time on TikTok, and the idea is you're supposed to then piggyback off that. It's almost like memes have evolved from being just a visual thing now to almost an auditory thing. I don't know why or how. I think TikTok's probably the biggest app to blame, for better or for worse. But I think that's a big thing. And so for you, when it comes to your song, is there any phrase or thing that you can say that will kind of be like, okay, as opposed to you, and I wish I could think of like a good example, like if you're doing a video about like, take John Summit, right? I think this is like kind of like a funny one. Like take his song, I'm drunk and I'm high and I'm in Chicago. Well, that's a really funny line. That's a really, really funny line. Like say someone's in Chicago and they're partying, they're at an EDM event, they're out bar hopping. That's a line that could grab your attention and be like, oh, that's really funny. If you just said, yo, I'm in Chicago, I think it's still funny, and I think it's still kind of like a cool thing you could use. But doing that line of I'm drunk and I'm high and I'm in Chicago is a lot more interesting and grabs your attention a lot quicker. For example, I did a song on my Las Vegas album where it builds up. I actually hired a voice announcer, and this is all true. I hired a voice announcer who does those kind of like deep movie-like like vocals to say, welcome to Las Vegas, in this like super crazy movie announcer style voice. And that song ended up going semi-viral because when someone go to Vegas, if that song just built up and said, Vegas, I don't think it would do as well. Although I think the song has been doing okay, but I think the fact that he used that sounds more epic. It sounds more intense, like welcome to Las Vegas. And then it drops. And a lot of people have been using that song. I think on one part, it's because the titling. The song is literally called Welcome to Las Vegas because of the Las Vegas sign. But also, I think more importantly and on top of that, is that line is a good hook grab, especially with the guy's voice being super deep and cinematic almost. And it seems like it's like this big epic moment, especially it happening right before the drop. Those kind of things, if you can spend some time on phrasing, and I know this is where it gets kind of interesting, especially now that we're talking about phrasing. This is a big aspect to making the song, right? Of course, making a good song is always important. I'm assuming you knew that. I mean, I should have probably mentioned that in the beginning of the video, but of course that's super important. But this is where things get kind of interesting now, I think, from a musical perspective, because there are some times where I want to make a really good, high quality, crafted production and song. But there's also this element of like, hey, well, you know, being a musician, I do also want my songs to do well and get heard. And so this is the first kind of tip I might say besides titling, which I feel like doesn't really affect the song per se, that I'm going to say to you is this. If like you're working on a song and you really like the phrasing and let's say there's vocals, leave it the way it is, of course. But like if you're working on a song, I feel like this happens especially in EDM where you're like, all right, what should I do right before the drop? Should I just have like a fill? Should I just build right into the drop? Or should I have someone say something or a phrase? Sometimes it's not a bad idea. Like say if you don't know, or like you're trying to think of it, to sit down and say, okay, let me just think of like a phrase, something that's kind of funny, something that's kind of catchy, especially maybe related to the song itself. You know, is there any way I can think of a phrasing that when someone does go to use a song in their video, and they do go to preview your song and make sure, like I showed you earlier, it's at the right preview start time, they'll listen to that phrase and be like, oh, that's a good phrase. And this is what happened on my St. Patrick's Day song. St. Patrick's Day, everyone's Irish tonight. Somehow that got a huge hook for people online, and it took off, right? So sometimes having just like a really interesting, funny, even borderline weird, or just whatever, some way that you can evoke a lot of emotion with that phrase, it can go a long way. And last, number 5 is promote. Now, this is one that's kind of interesting. I feel like I had to mention this because I do know a lot of musicians who what they've done is they make a song, they do all this kind of stuff, then they go to different influencers, like I said earlier, and they pay them off. Or maybe they have a friend and they're like, hey, dude, can you just use this in your video or whatever? I will say, just in general, the more that your music gets used in TikTok, especially I think on TikTok, Instagram too, but I think especially on TikTok, given the virality nature of it, things can snowball pretty quick and get out of control in a good way pretty fast. Now, for me, I gotta be honest, like I said, I've never once spent a dime on influencer marketing. I've not even reached out to influencers, but this is what I've noticed what's happened with my music, and it's just kind of interesting to see because sometimes all you need is that one breadcrumb that sets you off. What happened with me, for example, on my St. Patrick's Day video, or a song related to these videos, is I remember there's one influencer who I actually talked to, and I thanked him for using my song, because his video got like millions upon millions upon millions of views. It was this crazy makeup video where like, you see him putting on makeup and the song drops, and it's like a quick change of him fully with all this makeup and everything. It was a crazily cool video. That is kind of all it needed, and then it just spark. Because remember, for a lot of people now, not talking about musicians, but TikTok creators, piggybacking off a trend for a lot of TikTok creators is actually one of the biggest ways for a lot of TikTokers to kind of get more followers and get bigger, right? Like if there's a big trend, it's always important. And a lot of TikTokers are constantly Googling and searching for the next big trend. Because if they can be one of the first people or the first handful of people to jump on that trend, a lot of times, and there's been a million trends that have happened on TikTok and Instagram, they can get a bunch of attention. So this is why if your song could kind of be in this unique category that maybe some influencers say, hey, this song's starting to get a lot of steam, like I should do this trend now. That way I can be one of the first to do it. That way I can get more attention, I get more followers, I get more likes, hopefully more money, etc., etc. Things can snowball out of control really fast. So I will say, this is something, like I said, I've never really done. All of it's really been organic, but it's never a bad idea. Let's say you make a really good song and it has to do with X, Y, or Z. Maybe reach out to some creators who may be similar to that niche or that topic and say, hey, I just made this great song. It's starting to get some traction on TikTok. It's starting to become a trend. It'd be awesome if you want to use it. Just want to send it your way. Never a bad idea, because you'd be surprised how far that can potentially go. Obviously, I will say some influencers, especially now in this day and age with influencer marketing, might say, hey, sorry, you have to pay me a bunch of money or whatever. But also, you never know, because if it is becoming a trend, it is something that other bigger TikTokers or influencers or content creators or whatever will want to jump on, because it's a trend. And like I said earlier, one of the biggest ways to get big on TikTok and continue getting bigger is to jump on all these trends. And if it can get on the radar of somebody, you never know what's going to happen. Now, an important last point, I want to talk about being proactive versus retroactive. This is where I'm going to bring up the elephant in the room, and that is this. I think half the people watching this video, or I guess it depends on what category you're in, are saying, oh, cool. And then next time I make a song, I am going to think about a topic that maybe is videoable and searchable. I'm going to make sure I have the right preview time. I'm going to think of a cool phrase. I'm going to, after I release a song, contact some influencers, etc., etc. But the other part of you, or the other group of people, let's say watch this video, might say, well, Mark, I'm not going to lie, I just released this single. I just released this new single, and, I've been really trying to get it out there, so I'm watching your video now to try to get it to the masses. I can't change the title. I can't change the song itself. What do you do? Well, if you think about it, the biggest thing I think of anything, at least to start off, is one, that clip preview start time. Now, a lot of this is kind of based, at least my strategy, so to speak, is based around making songs that I think people might do videos about, right? Because for me, like I said, in the past, since I've noticed this happening with my music, I'd say it's been, in the past 2 or 3 years, all I've done is do intense testing when it comes to making a song. Like, I'm about to release a song soon that is all SEO'd to hopefully go viral, right? So, like, I think now I go into it every single song because I'm like, hey, when it comes to titling a song, like, if I can't think of a title, which always happens, even back in the day, I was like, I don't know what to title this. I've always had an issue with titling songs. So it's also for me a bit of like a cop-out or a loophole where I'm like, hey, I can't think of a good title. Why not find and do some SEO testing and analytics testing for like an SEO title? But the first thing I'd say is definitely a clip preview start time. I think that's the first thing. That's the first thing I'd say. Just make sure that when someone goes to preview your song, it's the best, most highlighted part. That goes a long way. The second thing, and this is something I did kind of touch upon, but not really, is can you think of a trend idea? What I mean is not just a trending video, trending topic, or whatever, but typically, like I said before when it comes to a meme, is there a way you could think of like a funny dance where, like, say, when the song goes viral, the trend is to do the dance to your song? Can you think of a thing that maybe, like, say, any single time someone uses your song, it's done maybe to the beat of the music? Like, I remember Rez's song Edge went viral on TikTok, where, like, you kind of move the camera around like this. And it looks weird for me to do it like that, but, like, you kind of move the camera around like this. And the trend wasn't necessarily about, like, a particular topic, as more to just do certain movements related to the song, right? So the second thing I think of is, can you think of a trend? Like, what is something you can think of that when someone will potentially use your song, they have to do something in relation to the song, whether it's a dance, a movement, whether it's showing something. Like, maybe the trend is, and I'm making this up, like, say you have a song about, I'm making stuff up. Like, so you make a song about cooking, for example, and that's just a song that you made in general. Maybe the trend is someone shows their home-cooked meal, and that's the trend is people showing their cooking skills, right? Like, the second thing is, can you think of, like, a trend or a topic related to that? Then the third thing is, one, I'd make your own video on TikTok doing that trend, and then see if you can contact other friends, where the trend, where all of them is them all doing this particular movement or thing in relation to your song and using your song in their video. I know it sounds kind of weird, but you'd be surprised, as dumb as it may be. I know some people may be watching this being like, dude, I'm not going to think of a weird dance. Like, I remember I had an idea. It didn't work out. I think it still could have, though. So I'll send this as a freebie about, in case you don't know what a metronome is. A metronome is, I mean, most people probably do, but it goes like you can put it on different speeds, and it's good for timing stuff or whatever. I thought of a trend. I never actually pushed this, but I feel like it could have been like a stupid, funny trend where I just saw that builds up and it goes, move your body like a metronome, right? And then on the drop, I was thinking it'd be funny if, like, say, a lot of people just went like this. And if you've never seen a metronome, it doesn't really move. That's kind of the joke. It just goes like this, typically. So just like that. Again, I know it sounds really funny and weird, but that's the kind of stuff that would work. Like, I could see if I, like, say, pushed out harder, which I just never did for whatever reason, that could potentially work. Where, like, say, the song builds up and says, move your body like a metronome, and then the trend is to just move your body like this. It looks super stupid, but look at the trends throughout the years. Sometimes they are just joke funny things that happen to take off, and it's one of those weird things that I've noticed about music that's happened with my music, where I make a song called St. Patrick's Day or Taco Bell that kind of started as jokes, like just like funny little music projects. I'm like, oh, this would be kind of like a funny thing to do, like an Irish EDM song, because I've never really heard one, or do a song about Taco Bell, right? Those are the songs that somehow will do super well when it comes to getting hits, views, making me money, right? But then I spent a month on this one particular record with what I like to think really good music theory and arranging and composition and sound design and all these technical elements of production and arranging and musicality. They don't go anywhere, right? And it's one of those things that sometimes, like, you don't pick what song you get known for. I would never imagine that my top song is St. Patrick's Day, right? So it is a little cheesy and a little ridiculous, I'm not gonna lie, but sometimes you never know, right? So I think a big thing I'd say to you is, one, clip preview start time. Always important. Second, can you just think of a trend to attach to that song where any single time your song gets used, you have to do this thing, whether it's a dance, whether it's showing you something, whether it's a movement, whether it's some kind of editing trick, whatever the case is. And then thirdly, not only yourself should make a video, but then contact your friends saying, hey, can you do this? Do you mind doing it on TikTok? Maybe contact some influencers, and then go from there.